Hello, my dear students. Welcome to the next class of literary theory. So, we are continuing with Marxism today. We are going to study about Antonio Gramsci and his concepts like cultural hegemony, subaltern, civil society, organic intellectuals, and so on. You may be familiar with few of the terms, but let's study more. Let's get started.
Antonio Gramsci, the famous Marxist philosopher and leader of Italian Communist Party, influenced 20th century socio-cultural studies. He was a philosopher, journalist, linguist, writer and politician. He wrote on philosophy, political theory, sociology, history, linguistics, and he studied Marxist thought in depth, and he became a leading theoretician. It was during First World War. And he was a founding member of the Communist Party of Italy, and he was also imprisoned by Benito Mussolini, his fascist regime. Benito Mussolini was an Italian political leader who became the fascist dictator of Italy from 1925 to 1945. Fascism is a political philosophy which give more importance to nation. It is often a capitalist ideology. It gives more importance to nation. That means nation stands above the individual, and there will be an autocratic government headed by a dictatorial leader, and they also suppress the opposition. Before he was imprisoned, he formed a leftist group. Then he founded the newspaper, The New Order, and he also encouraged the development of factory councils where prominent positions were given to industrial workers. And in Italy, he became head of his party, but his party was outlawed by Benito Mussolini and he was arrested and imprisoned. And his ideas and theories he wrote in his essays and notes, including the prison notebooks. Prison notebooks he wrote during 1929 and 1935 when he was in prison. It is a series of essays, and it is a very huge contribution to 20th century political theory. Gramsci is famous for his theories and ideas like cultural hegemony, subaltern, civil society, manufacture of consent, and organic intellectuals. His ideas reflected the influence of Karl Marx. He also developed the idea of Marx that economic exploitation is not the only driving force behind capitalism. The economic exploitation of the capital class or the ruling class or the bourgeois class on the working class is not the only driving force behind capitalism. But the system was reinforced by a dominance of ideas and values of the ruling class which work silently. The superstructure has a major role. The ideas and values of ruling class superstructure, it is permeated in the society. It is not only the economic exploitation, but the role of superstructure. It is very crucial. Gramsci formulated his theory of civil society in which he envisaged capitalist state as being made up of two overlapping spheres. The capitalist state, the capitalist country, has got two spheres, a political society and a civil society. See, this is closely associated with ISA and RSAs. Gramsci saw that capitalist state is being made of two overlapping spheres. One is political society which rules through the force, for example police force, military force. That is, strict rules are given to the society and people are forced to follow the rules. And through this political society, or through the rules, or through the military force, the goal of the capitalist system is made quickly. And political society controls the people by the help of military and police. That is similar to the concept of RSA, repressive state apparatus, as we've studied in Louis Althusser's class. ഇപ്പോൾ നമ്മൾക്ക് കാണാൻ പറ്റുന്നത് താലിബാൻ അവിടെ അഫ്ഗാനിസ്ഥാനിൽ അവർ ഫോഴ്സ് റൂൾസ് ആൾക്കാരെ കൊണ്ട് നിർബന്ധിച്ച് ഫോളോ ചെയ്യിപ്പിക്കുന്ന ഒരു രീതിയാണ് നമുക്ക് കാണാൻ പറ്റുന്നത്, അല്ലേ? They need to follow these rules, otherwise they have to face a lot of issues. They have to face their cruel penalties. But Gramsci says that capitalist state is overlapped by two spheres. One is political society, one is civil society. And what does civil society do? That means it rules the people through consent, similar to ideological state apparatus. Certain ideologies and ideas are given to the society. Ideas and values are given to the society through the culture, through media, through education system, through family, through religion, through church. Ideas are permeated in the society. Ideas and values of the ruling class, it becomes the dominant ideology in the society. And through education, through family, through religion, these ideas are propagated. And people get influenced by these ideas and they follow it. They get influenced by this idea and they follow it through their own consent. Civil society is the domain where the bourgeois class or the capitalist people reproduce and maintain their hegemony by means of ideology. We can say that capitalist people, they promote the usage of branded clothes, and they set the norm that people all section of people should use these types of clothes, and they reduce the price of that. They reduce the price to a small extent, and people get attracted towards that thing and they buy it. They give money, they give their hard earned money to buy these things, thinking that this is standard, this is the way we have to live. The hegemony of the capitalist class in society is maintained not by the army or any other agencies of the political society, not by the force. Hegemony is maintained not by the force of the ruling class, not by the military force, not by the strict laws, but it is maintained by manipulating certain ideas and values. I've given a lot of examples regarding these things in the last classes. The hegemony is achieved through social institutions, media, culture, religion, educational institutions, and its influence the values, norms, ideas, expectations, and behavior of the society. And a notion is being created among the people that it is for the benefit of all. Even though these things benefit only the ruling class, these things benefit only the capitalist society. This kind of power is distinct from rule by force because it allows the ruling class to exercise authority using the peaceful means of ideology and culture. I can give you another example is that ഇപ്പോൾ ഫുഡ് ആപ്സ് ഒക്കെ ഒരുപാട് നമുക്ക് അവൈലബിൾ ആണ് അല്ലേ. അപ്പോൾ അതിൽ ഒരു ആപ്പിൻ്റെ ഒരു അഡ്വർടൈസ്മെൻറ്റ് ഞാൻ കുറച്ച് നാൾ മുമ്പ് കണ്ടതാണ്. കുക്ക് ഫ്രീ ജാനുവരി, കുക്ക് ഫ്രീ ഫെബ്രുവരി എന്നൊക്കെ പറഞ്ഞിട്ട് ഒരു മന്ത് മുഴുവൻ. അപ്പോൾ അതിൻ്റെ അണ്ടർലൈങ് ഐഡിയോളജി എന്താണ്? വീട്ടിലുള്ളവരൊക്കെ കുക്ക് ചെയ്യാണ്ടൊന്ന് റെസ്റ്റ് എടുക്കാം, അവർക്ക് വേറെ കാര്യങ്ങളൊക്കെ എൻഗേജ്ഡ് ആവാം, എൻ്റർടൈൻഡ് ആവാം. ഇറ്റ് ഈസ് ഫോർ ദ ബെനിഫിറ്റ് ഓഫ് യു ഓൺലി വി ആർ ഗിവിങ് ദിസ് കുക്ക് ഫ്രീ. നിങ്ങൾ അതിനും കുറച്ച് റിഡക്ഷനും പ്രൈസ് റിഡക്ഷനും ഒക്കെ പറഞ്ഞിട്ട്. പക്ഷേ ഹൂസ് ഗെയിനിങ് ദ പ്രോഫിറ്റ്, ഹൂസ് ഗെയിനിങ് ദ മണി? ഇതിൽ നിന്ന് ആർക്കാണ് മെച്ചം ഉണ്ടാവുന്നത്? ഓഫ് കോഴ്സ് ദ ക്യാപിറ്റലിസ്റ്റ് പീപ്പിൾ അല്ലേ.
The power operates in this realm by manufacturing consent. They manufacture consent and legitimizing oppression. They justify this economic disparity. As ideology is permeated, as ideology is accepted by the whole society through their own consent, hegemony of the ruling class becomes more stronger and stronger. It becomes the norm, it becomes the dominant way of thinking. The hegemonic culture appears to be so normal and natural to the oppressed classes. Their influence or their high position in the society or their ideology, their dominant lifestyle become so natural to the oppressed classes. To counter and alter this narrative of hegemony, the oppressed class need to create its own culture. They have to give focus to their own culture, to their own way of living, or a counter hegemony. It refers to the attempts to dismantle the dominant hegemonic power, an opposition to the existing hegemonic power.
Gramsci considers hegemony is more powerful than the repressive forces of the state. Hegemony is more powerful than the political society. Gramsci's observations on the formation of intellectuals are central to critical theory. According to Gramsci, now we are talking about his observation. According to Gramsci, all human beings have the potential to be intellectuals, but are not so for varying reasons. There is a group of people traditionally designated as intellectuals, mostly because of their profession. Certain people are called intellectuals because of their profession, because of their connection with the ideas, theories. A person who tries to use his or her intelligence, thinking capacity, rational thinking, all these things constitutes for an intellectual. We call a person intellectual when he or she is rational, he or she is intelligent, he or she who involved in the analytical thinking, isn't it?
Traditional intellectuals,
Because they belong to the institutions of church, law, education, science, and medicine. They are associated with the traditional knowledge. Unaware of they are keeping themselves away from the political and social forms. They continue with their knowledge. What does it mean? They support the dominant class. They are not ready to study about the society. They keep their knowledge distinct or different from the society. They seemed indeed to represent an historical continuity uninterrupted, even by the most complicated and radical changes in political and social forms. They are uninterrupted even in the social forms or political forms. They represent only the historical continuity. History we have already studied. History, what is history according to Marx? It is the history of class struggle between the working class and the capitalist. And also, it is the history of the struggle of the material forces. They represent the historical continuity. They represent the history of struggle of the material forces of contrasting interest, supporting the material force, and they represent an historical continuity. The traditional intellectuals, they support the dominant class. They protect the interest of the dominant class. These traditional intellectuals move on uninterrupted. They support the materialist forces. They support the obtained knowledge in the society. They are not ready into the political forms or social forms. And Gramsci criticized them. Gramsci negates this notion of they are being apolitical, they are against politics, they are not interested in politics. Gramsci negates this notion. Gramsci doesn't support this. He states that these traditional intellectuals support and protect the interest of the dominant class. They support the ideology of the dominant class. These traditional intellectuals actually control ideological apparatuses. What are the ideological apparatuses? Religion, education, culture. And to maintain the structures of hegemony by the dominant class, these traditional intellectuals control the ideological apparatuses. And they themselves, it seems that they distance from the politically dominant class. Organic intellectuals rise from the people in different junctures of history as a result of the marginalization of their class. They are closely connected to their own class. They identify themselves with its modes of thought. They are the subjects of oppressions in the cultural hegemony, the working class people. They intervene in the existing hegemonic narratives and they create, organize, and direct counter hegemonies. This potential for creating emancipatory counter hegemonies fundamentally distinguishes the organic intellectuals from their traditional counterparts. Organic intellectuals is associated with counter hegemonies, and the traditional intellectuals is associated with cultural hegemony. They support the hegemony, but organic intellectuals, they stand against cultural hegemony, hence they support counter hegemony. It can be writers, it can be commentators, it can be editors, can be associated with organic intellectuals. Gramsci says that, he proposes that in order to achieve a hegemonic position or in order to control the means of production, the proletariat, the working class, must go with the other social groups who are struggling in the society. He wants to break the capitalist structure for the goodwill of the society. Bourgeois class relies on the capitalist structures, and Gramsci wants to break this order, and he proposes counter hegemony. But counter hegemony is not something real hegemony, but it is of overthrowing capitalism or against that hegemonic relations in the society. The proletariat people, working class people, must undertake such task of counter hegemony through organic intellectuals. These individuals should be organizing, administering, directing the working class people or the common people, mass people. They should do through education. And these organic intellectuals who doesn't support the capitalist people or bourgeois people should organize and mediate in the common people, and they should work for the national, popular, collective will. The subaltern refers to classes suffering under hegemonic domination of a ruling elite class. Subaltern people, the marginalized people, working class people who are always exploited, and they are denied the basic rights. They are denied of many privileges in the society because dominant class, they their ideology runs in the society that denies them the basic rights of participation in the making of local history and culture as active individuals of the same nation. These subaltern people follow the culture and standard of the high class people or the ruling class people. They are denied of any culture, denied of making any culture of themselves to be the dominant one. They have to follow the dominant culture of the ruling class. Gramsci's intentions when he first used the concept of the subaltern are clear enough. The only groups Gramsci had in mind at the time were the workers and peasants who were oppressed and discriminated against by the leader of the National Fascist Party, Benito Mussolini, and his agents. I gave you a detail about Benito Mussolini, who was the dictator leader, a totalitarian leader, he who proclaimed the fascism, he who was the voice of National Fascist Party. This fascist oppressed and discriminated workers and peasants, and Gramsci was talking for these workers and peasants. He was imprisoned and he wrote prison notes while he was imprisoned. The subaltern classes, by definition, are not unified and cannot unite until they are able to become a state. Their history, therefore, is intertwined with that of civil society and thereby with the history of states and groups of states. Even though the subaltern people have the same complex history as that of hegemonic classes, they lack the authenticity and acceptance the latter class enjoys. They are underprivileged people. Marginalized people are always oppressed in the society, they are exploited. They are not accepted in the society. Voice of the underprivileged people was less heard before because the subaltern people was always oppressed. They denied voice. They lacked the acceptance in the society. Gramsci is of the opinion that the history of the subaltern classes should be studied with focus on factors like the formation of the class, the dominant culture they are affiliated to, their own efforts to gain autonomy, and external forces that affect the existing power relations. This is to make up for the lack of unity in the histories of the subaltern. Gramsci is on the side that their voice, their history should be studied. Focus to be given to the subaltern people because they are more in number. They are the mass people. They are marginalized, oppressed. And Gramsci says that focus to be given to the marginalized people should be studied about their class, formation of that particular class, formation of that particular marginalized section or subaltern group, and how they are influenced by the dominant culture, in what all ways they are attracted, how they are influenced by the dominant culture, or how they got the ideology of the dominant people, and focus to be given to their efforts, the efforts of the subaltern class to gain autonomy, and the focus to be given to the external forces that affect their existing power relations, the other factors that contribute to the power relations. This is to make up for the lack of unity in the histories of the subaltern. By studying these things, it will help to make up for the lack of unity in the histories of the subaltern. Gramsci believes that a permanent and complete victory over the elite class alone will radically change their state of subjugation. A victory over the elite class, that is, opposition towards the cultural hegemony, that will change their state of subjugation.
For this, the subaltern classes should be freed from the clutches of cultural hegemony of the dominant class. They should turn against the cultural hegemony of the dominant class. They should have their own ideology, they should have their own ideals and values in the society. They shouldn't be, they have to free themselves from the hegemonic power relation from the capitalist people. A counter hegemony should be there. So that's it about Gramsci, Antonio Gramsci. We have studied about now cultural hegemony, subaltern civil society, then organic intellectuals. So I'm stopping here, and from the next class we will start with cultural studies, because we have already completed Louis Althusser, ISA and RSA. So we will start with cultural studies. Happy learning. Thank you.